Good afternoon to everybody. I'd like to share with you a very interesting Khatam Sofer concerning the rebellion of Korach. The simple, straightforward, conventional explanation of Korach is that he said that everyone is holy, you don't need Kohanim, you don't need leaders, everyone's got enough Kedusha in them, and everyone is equal in the eyes of Hashem. The Khatam Sofer says that the problem with Korach was that he wanted to be both a Kohen and a Levi. It's not that he just wanted to replace Aaron, and that would imply that he was a Levi, and he wanted to upgrade himself, and he wanted to be a Kohen. But the Khatam Sofer says that wasn't the problem. The problem that he wanted to be both. He wanted to be a Kohen and a Levi at the same time. And where does the Khatam Sofer get this novel idea from? He gets it from the language of the Pasuk. I'll read to you the Pasuk. It says, Moshe says to Korach, he says to him as follows, that why is it Hashem has chosen you to be a Levi, has separated you from the congregation of Israel? And then it says, you're special in that way, and it says uvikashtem gam kahuna. Are you seeking it out? What does the word gam mean? Gam means also. Do you seek, besides your being a Levi, to be also a Kohen? So the Khatam Sofer understands that this word also is always when it means this plus something else. Not that the also is replacing, it's adding on. So Korach wanted to be both a Kohen and a Levi. And what's the problem with that? The problem is as follows, that today everybody knows, especially in the area of politics, of leadership, any form of leadership whatsoever, everyone knows that there is what is called a conflict of interests. Sometimes if a person can't have two different functions, he can't have two offices, where the two officers can be cause a conflict of interest. And the Khatam Sofer says this was a problem. It was Korach had like an identity crisis. By wanting to be a Levi and to be a Kohen, he put himself in a situation where he's got a conflict of interest. And how so? Because the Khatam Sofer says that what is a Levi and what is a Kohen? A Levi is a person who has to represent the interests of the Jewish people. And what's a Kohen? A Kohen is a person who basically, he represents the interests of Hashem, of God. And what he wanted to do was, he wanted to combine as one person, a Levi and a Kohen, to have the maximum interests of the Jewish people in mind, the maximum interest of Hashem in mind. And these two, you can't have these two interests. Obviously you can, but we're saying that in this case, it's like very, very difficult. And Hashem wanted these two aspects of serving Hashem, that they should be separated. One tribe, which represents the Jewish people. One tribe that represents, so to speak, the interests of God. The Zohar, in fact, says that a Levi and a Kohen, they've got different types of neshamot. The Levi comes from the side of strict judgment, and the Kohen, he represents and expresses the opposite, the side of love. Like we all know in the Birkat Kohanim, it says, and it was very hard then to have these two represented in the Beit HaMikdash in the same type of person. I think maybe I'll give another example, which will, it's not exactly the same. But in the Midrashim it says that there were various types of prophets. There was a prophet, let's say, like Yonah Navi. We know that Yonah was told to go and to prophesy in Nineveh, and he didn't want to do it. Because he knew, as the Midrashim explain, that the people of Nineveh, as the Tanakh tells us, that they would do tshuva. And by them doing tshuva, they would show up, so to speak, the Jewish people. That would be a terrible indictment of the Jewish people. A prophet goes in and he calls the people to do tshuva, and they do tshuva. And the Nevi'im, on the other hand, when they called on the Jewish people, Am Yisrael, to do tshuva, they didn't. So he fled and he refused to do the prophecy because he had, as in the language of the Midrash, hu tavak vodor shel habed. In other words, what he did was he demanded the honor of the child. Then you've got types of Nevi'im who are the opposite. Like take Eliyahu HaNavi. Eliyahu HaNavi, with all his righteous wrath, he represented it as a Navi more the interests of Hashem. And he was not merciful, so to speak, on the Jewish people. We all know all these things from the countless of Midrashim, therefore he was replaced him at some point. So he represented the interests of Hashem. You had now a Navi, the Midrash says, like Yeshayahu, he was a singular, that he was able to represent both the interests of the Jewish people and the interests of Hashem. But this is what we're saying, that we have to remember that Hashem wants us, and from an individual point of view, from a collective point of view, Hashem has dedicated each one to serve him in a certain way, and that we can't have, no matter how much we want to think that it would be better for us, but where there's a conflict of interest. So this was a sin of Korach. Rather be a Levi who serves the interests of the Jewish people to the nth degree, instead of trying to have some sort of hybrid representation of doing half-half when there's a conflict of interest. This is the big chidush of the Chatam Sofer.